Hey guys, welcome to the Kane Audio vlog. It's hopefully Friday and therefore time for another Ask Me Anything. Normal rules apply. Comment me any question below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's. The reason I am saying it's hopefully Friday is because it's actually Thursday today. And that leads me into house admin. First of all, apologies for last week's video being Saturday or Sunday, I think it was. The reason for that is the last couple of weeks my Mac Pro tower under the desk here has started showing signs of age, and where normally to do 25-40 minute video, you know, I import it to Final Cut and then obviously color grade it and whatever, you know, just tweak the brightness or whatever and then boot it out. Normally takes, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most, depending on the length of the video. The last couple of weeks it's gradually got slower to the point where last week it took about 9 hours. Not good. Yes, so I'm probably on the hunt for a new computer soon, I think. In fairness to this Mac Pro, it's a 2008 or 2009, I think. Used to be a beast. Upgraded everything that can be upgraded. You know, it's running 8 cores at whatever speed and a couple of gig, I think, or actually it's only a gig of graphics, so that's going to slow it down. So I don't know if it's the graphics card that's slowing it down or whether it's the whole CPU that's slowing it all down. Probably a bit of everything. I can't update to the latest OS because it's no longer supported. So I've known for about a year that it's getting to a point where I need to change computer. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. I think I'm going to stick with Mac. Probably go the route of an iMac. The only issue with that is that I have Universal Audio UAD2 PCIe card in this machine, and no new computers come with PCIe slots, so that's going to be annoying. So there we go. And bad timing because it doesn't tie in with royalties or anything like that. So yeah, so I'm filming this on Thursday. Hopefully I'll get it done for Friday. Bit of a nightmare, but there we go, plow on. Second bit of news. If you can see my screen here, you will notice that in underneath last week's video, because I spent so long waiting for the damn thing to render, I decided to kill some time by putting together a Kane Audio merch store. It is teespring.com/stores/Kane Audio. There'll be a link below this video as well, if I remember. There is a mug, a couple of hoodies, Kane Audio ones, and a couple of three Kane Audio t-shirts, I think. Yeah, so you've got the circle logo and the landscape logo, and then I've done a couple of Dom Kane ones as well. And yeah, so they are available to buy now, and clearly the support would be much appreciated as my computer's dying, as timing would have it. On that note, I've gone for the best quality I could find that was an acceptable price. So let me know if you know of either better or cheaper or whatever companies. I kind of tried to find a balance. You can choose your own prices on this site, and I've gone for the lowest prices I can do to make it somewhat feasible. So you know, on the hoodie I'm only making, I can't remember what it was, £2 or £3 or something. So I've tried to keep prices down and I've tried to keep quality up, which is how we all like life. I'm still waiting for delivery of my own hoodie that I had to pay full price for, because I hadn't thought of that before putting the store together. And then I thought, oh, I need to get myself one, and I had to pay full back, but whatever. So yeah, so I've got a couple of bits turning up, so hopefully in next week's video I might be wearing my own merch. And that, I think, is about it for house admin. Seems to have been a long intro this week. Is there anything else? Studio wise, I think I've now got quotes in for foundation. I've got a couple of other quotes in for other bits of the build. To be honest, I'm trying to keep budget low, and I think I'm probably better off building it myself. I've selected all the different timber for joists. I'm going for stud walling. I've selected all, priced up all the rock wool, the weather membrane. I'm going for a GRM roof, so it'll be like solid fiberglass. Yeah, I've chosen the window, the door, the sockets, the trunking, the cables, the cable shields, the electric installation. I've kind of nailed most of it now, so I think I'm like 95% there in terms of costing it up and choosing parts and whatever. If you guys want to follow me on that process, what I might do is start doing another video series, not as part of this AMA because it's not an AMA, but I will probably start that series at some point soon. I'm not quite ready, certainly not in terms of funding and whatever. I'm not ready to go for it yet, so I might just do a couple of little videos on the planning process, what I chose, why I chose it, with a view to sort of leading into the build. And there we go. So on with the AMA. Last week's was number 19, vlog 45. Starting with Unknown Artist. Hi Dom, apologies for asking a question that's already been answered. I had already viewed that video too. Not a problem. Well, as we just established, there's 19 of these, so no one's going to remember everything. I sure as shit don't. Thanks again for the videos, they're very insightful. My question is, how do I get rid of the wife? She's doing my head in. That's not one I can answer. Also, if at any time you want information on building a wooden outbuilding, then please feel free anytime. There's some important factors to consider to the external structure before the install starts. P.S. You don't have to read this out in your next video. Too late, I just did. Cool, okay. Send me a message on my Facebook fan page. I probably read those the most, if you can catch me there. Otherwise, my email address is on the Kane Audio website. Get in touch there. I'm hoping, like I've just actually said, I'm hoping I've kind of nailed what I need and where and how and all of that. Oh, the other snag at the moment is planning permission, because I need, because of the, you can't see them, the corner acoustic units I have are like 1.2 meters, so I need 2.4 meters height, and 2.5 is the British planning permission limit, so I might have to go through all of that as well. Whatever. Rod Marco, I forgot to erase the memory card from last week's video, so my memory card was full. Apologies, I don't know where I got, so I'm going to start Rod Marconi's comment again and then edit it like it never happened. Thanks Tom for the last video, and especially the advice on the subject of tutorials. I myself get overwhelmed by too many tutorials, which often has a negative effect on my creativity, so I try sticking to a select few like yourself. Thank you very much. Yeah, so with tutorials and reading manuals and stuff like that, I think I sort of explained that you know, you kind of need to experiment with stuff first, and then it's only when you start thinking that you're maybe not learning enough, then you go on to something like tutorials or reading the manual or whatever. I think it was about workstations I was talking about. Yeah, I totally get that as well. And actually, I find myself as a producer, sometimes I need to switch off to the rest of the industry and stop listening to other people's music. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but particularly producers that I appreciate or respect, you know, musically, I kind of have to not, if I'm, so for example, if I'm deciding, like at the moment I'm trying to put together a new EP, I've switched off to all the other Mau5trap artists. I don't know what they're putting out. I see their music go out, but I kind of refuse to listen to it because I don't want it to influence what I do. And even worse, I'm hoping all you guys get this as well, but sometimes, you know, you listen to, you could be producing a track or whatever, and then you take a break and you listen to a track from a producer that you know and love, and then you end up just getting depressed because you're just like, oh, why can't I do music this good, or how did they do that, or whatever. And then you go back to your workstation and you're just like, oh no, forget it. You know, it can be quite depressing as an artist sometimes. So yeah, that's my take anyway. But anyway, my question: when putting out a demo, should you make it public on all your socials, YouTube, etc., or just share the demo through private links only to labels and DJs? Do you know what? That's a good question, and there kind of isn't a right or wrong answer. I would say you're better off not doing it. There are a lot of labels out there who are really strict on their promo process. You know, they want you to tease out clips 2 weeks before release or whatever. And actually, I think also, if you have a decent following, probably that's the wrong word, there are certain types of followings where, for example, you guys watching this, certainly the regular watchers of this, kind of follow what I do in the process and whatever, so I could give you guys a clip of a track that I'm working on at the moment for maybe tutorial reasons, and then, you know, you might ask about it in 3-4 months time or whatever, and that's great. But for a lot of people as well, and myself included, there are also a lot of followers who are kind of just temporary, and you need to get their attention quick. And you know, if you played a clip to them, if you let them hear a snippet, they're not going to remember it 3-4 months later. So if it gets released, it gets signed to a massive label, they could either A, hear it and go, I don't remember this, or they could B, hear it and go, I'm sure I've heard this before, you're copying someone or whatever, because they don't remember where they've heard it before. So I think you kind of need to try and work your socials in with your label and make sure it fits with them. So personally, I tend to recommend to people not to upload stuff. However, on the flip side of that, you know, there are artists like deadmau5, for example, who will just chuck up a work in progress or whatever on SoundCloud, and it gets left there, and then the official thing gets finished and released and whatever, and you've still got the work in progress on SoundCloud. He can kind of get away with it. I don't think I could get away with it. I don't think there are many of us that could get away with doing that, to be honest. So I tend to sort of err on the side of caution, I suppose. And then again, there are some labels that would point blank turn you down if you've made something public. I know, for example, labels don't even like being sent a private link where they're one of 20, 30, 40 other listeners, because they don't know if you're also sending it to all their competitors, and really you shouldn't be sending tracks to that many labels, because it's not really a personal touch then. And some labels will, I guess, take offence to that, which is a bit stupid, but that's what it is, if I'm honest. So yeah, so I tend to not do that. However, if you're self-releasing and stuff, then you do what you want, do what works, I suppose. P.S. Please do another video series on yourself mixing someone's track. It is in the pipelines. So there's a few things. First of all, being in this temporary room doesn't help, because I'm not confident enough in the sound of this room. The other thing is, while I'm filming, I can't turn my speakers up very loud, and when I'm mixing, I like to turn it up somewhat louder, and that makes it annoying. Not impossible, but a bit annoying. And then also, in fact, I had a guy, Dale, come to me for a mixdown a few weeks ago, who watches this channel, and so he said, by the way, if you want to use my mixdown, you're welcome to. So first of all, there's that issue of copyright that I've mentioned before, and then second of all, with that specific project as well, I was using a load of plugins that are in alpha testing and beta testing, and I can't have those publicly on video as well. So there's this whole host of stuff. However, I really do want to, or certainly my plan is, when I get the new studio built, I'm going to really push to try and make, like I've done with this weekly AMA session, obviously not weekly mixdowns, but I want to try and do a kind of a regular series, and maybe not complete from start to finish, but when I find an interesting point, you know, if I'm doing a mixdown and I know I've had one, and I've even looked for this file, I can't remember who it was, but I did have a client who wanted this sort of big 80s gated reverb snare and a huge kick drum and everything, and so I sort of went back to him and said, right, you need to get this sort of a sound and this sort of sound, and then I'll take it from there. And he did that, and then we opened up the project and I went through it and just compressed the hell out of these drums basically, and really sort of made them gel into this big roomy sound. And you know, there are things like that that I do every now and then where I think, right, I really want to do a video on this and sort of show you guys. So it is on the cards. It is definitely something I want to do. I just haven't got round to it yet, and I'm not sure how soon it's going to be. However, when I'm in the new studio, I'm building it to a spec where I know, you know, I'm going to be able to trust the volume of everything at a lower level, which allows me to record with the microphone you're listening to me on now, as well as listening to the speakers at a decent level. So it'll be far easier then. Sunset 86. Cheers, Don, for another great vid. Maybe you should do some kind of way to raise money for your studio build. I'm sure most of us will donate, given the time you take out each week to answer questions and give valuable information. Yeah, a few people have mentioned that, and I did sort of go over it last week in the video. I'm kind of hesitant to do that, partly because I think it's begging, and if I'm totally honest with you guys, it's also partly because producers and DJs and stuff these days seem to think that being rich and famous is the image you're supposed to portray. I'm not rich and I'm not famous. I just enjoy my job. So from my perspective, you know, if I can get funding for the studio, that would be amazing. There's also, you know, I'm kind of starting again with the merch that I've mentioned at the beginning of this video. I'm kind of trying to, in my head, I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe that can help go towards it. So rather than fundraising, I'm kind of just trying to open up a few avenues, because like I also said at the beginning of this video, I started pricing it up and it's not cheap. So yeah, it's something I'm considering. I did consider Kickstarter, and I mentioned that last week, but Kickstarter do this thing where if you set a goal of, you know, let's say 5,000 or whatever, then, and you don't reach 5,000, then the project doesn't get funded. So that's kind of out of the question, because actually if it raised 4,999, you know, that's still a massive chunk out of the studio build anyway. And I've got to be clear that I'm doing this studio anyway, whether it gets funded by me or others or bank loans or whatever. You know, it's going to go ahead. It's just a question of when and how. So yeah, and then finally, I don't have as much as you guys who watch this regularly, and you know, most of these guys naming here, you know, you're all regulars, which I thoroughly appreciate. It's not like there's 500,000 people out there, because you know, I would kind of, I guess statistically speaking, you'd expect maybe 1% of followers to make any kind of genuine putting their money where their mouth is support type thing on these things. You know, same goes for merch and whatever. I'm expecting a few sales every now and then. I'm not expecting it to suddenly make me rich, so I have to be kind of careful with stuff like that as well, and kind of set realistic goals, I suppose. But we'll see how it goes. I feel like I'm being really depressed and negative in this video this week. I'm genuinely not, or not meaning to. Right, so where did I get to in that? I'd also like to see another mixdown session tutorial. Yep, just covered that. It's constant learning and very informative. So again, once I get into the new studio, that is my absolute intention. I just think it's a bit of a struggle here, being in the back room of a house as well. I've got neighbours next door, so I can't crank it up all day, which is what I usually do when I'm doing a mixdown. I have to be quite selective as to when I do it. So that's fine when I'm not filming, because I don't have to do it all in one long session. But if I'm filming, it kind of needs to be done in one long session, and that's not always the reality of the situation. Thanks again, Dom. Sorry I forgot the keyword this week, or maybe there wasn't one. There wasn't one this week. Deadmouse5, the Mexican Deadmouse. Nice video, Dom. Thanks for the replies. No questions this time. Maybe another time, because I don't have anything to ask right now. Haha. Cheers. You're welcome. Casey Music. Hey, Dom. Casey Music. I know this one. I think I saw it. I tried to ask a question under both of your AMAs. They did not show up though. I couldn't see them with my other accounts too. Well, I'll have another try this time. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. First of all, congrats on your 1 million views on Psychoschematics. Yes, 2 weeks ago, I know. Yeah, cheers. Did I mention that on a video? I think I did. So yeah, Psychoschematics has had 1 million plays on Spotify, and I'm super proud of that. That's great. So thank you very much. I have a question about sidechain compression. Before I get to that, so yeah, I have seen your comments come through when you've commented, because I get notifications on my phone from YouTube, and I'm pretty sure I've liked the comment. As you all notice, I do like your comments when I see them come through, and then I've not seen it when I've actually come to doing the video. I don't know why that is. I'll check the you get like spam notifications and stuff. I'll check that in a moment after this video to make sure you're not getting filtered for some reason. But yeah, so I replied to your comment this time to make sure it stays there. I have a question about sidechain compression. Yes, compression again, don't get upset. Do you sidechain any other drum element of your track except your kick? For example, putting a sidechain for your drum to stand out more in the track. So I think I've covered compression a fair bit before. I'm not angry, it's all good, and I like getting questions on compression actually. So you're asking, do I sidechain any other drum element except for the kick? So actually I tend to use LFO Tool more than sidechain compression these days. I only really do it against the kick if it's say on pads or something like that, that I need to be not sidechained during a breakdown. So you've said, for example, putting sidechain for your drum to stand out more in the track. I sidechain, so instead of using the kick as a trigger, yeah, so sometimes you'll notice in some of my tracks I use quite a bassy tom drum as a sort of, you know, fourth beat or fourth bar flick or fill of some sort. I will sometimes use that as the trigger to create more sidechain on one of the other instruments, but also the reverse of that, sometimes I'll sidechain the tom against a kick or something just so that it fits snugly in between. Other than that, as I've said before, I don't use compressors much at all in the writing process, because I think if you want your kicks louder, turn them up. You know, that's why we have a mixer, is so we can turn stuff up and down. You know, so if you feel your kicks need to be louder, then turn them up. There's no point compressing the hell out of them unless you are looking to reshape the kick. And if I'm brutally honest, if you're looking to reshape a kick, get a different kick. If it doesn't fit your track, use a different kick. Just keep flicking through different kicks until you find the right one. So yeah, there we go. As for sidechain, I don't think I sidechain anything else against anything else. Maybe I do. I've done a video before on sidechain the sidechain. Yeah, I don't think there's... if I think of something, I'll bring it up next time. So yeah, so I reply saying, noted, not sure why your comments haven't shown before, blah, blah, blah. Zombo, full hair, why? I don't know what that's in reference to. Was it my hair or someone else's hair? Who knows? Sean Charles, hey Dom, I don't know if this has been answered already, but when recording hardware synths, what's the best level for recording them into the DAW? Thank you once again for doing this. You're welcome. So I've mentioned before I love Bitwig, and I love the fact that they introduced the feature I suggested to them to have K20 metering, and that's the key to the answer here. Is if you look up Google K20 metering, the idea of that is it changes your meter levels to go red essentially at, say, I can't remember what it is, -8 dB and -20 dB is where you start getting a hot signal. So when you're using analog equipment, you have what's called a hot signal, which basically means it's too loud going into the device. Analog equipment generally used to be much more sensitive than digital, for obvious reasons, because digital stuff you can just mash. So when you're dealing with things like valves and whatever, you have to sort of lower the input gains, and K20 metering is basically the digital equivalent of that. So when it starts getting what we call hot on a K20 meter, you know if you're sending that signal to an analog piece of hardware, then you know it's going to be hot, running hot into that device, whatever that device is. So yeah, there's that to bear in mind, which is why, again, like I say, with Bitwig, you can just flick everything into K20 metering, as I do, and I just leave it there as default. I also have my default channel gain set to -10 dB, so it means that I'm just running lukewarm when I'm using analog gear. When I load a new channel and I just want to send it to a piece of analog gear and then run it back in or whatever. So yeah, so I'm not generally running too hot on that. Yeah, so hopefully that answers. Although I can see Sunset86 has answered. Hey Sean, I used to be confused by this. A good level to aim in digital terms is around -18, but not specific, as long as you don't clip your signal. Though I'd like to hear Dom's take on this too. So yeah, there we go. I think I just said a minute ago -20 to -8 is super hot basically, and -20 is where it starts getting lukewarm. But yeah, that's essentially the theory, is that a digital signal is much louder because you can smash a level into 0 and get a bit of digital clipping, but your computer's not going to blow up. Whereas an analog signal, traditionally, you know, if you were recording to tape or whatever, you know, you had things like signal to noise ratios and whatever, so you kind of sometimes needed to run it warm or hot or whatever. So when digital stuff came out and there were no restraints on gain levels, you could run a digital signal into an analog device and it would just burn. So yeah, so that's basically what it is, and the answer is K20 metering. That was the system that was kind of invented for that translation of decibel readings, I suppose. And there we go. I think, yeah, that is it for this week. No idea how long this video has been because it cut out probably 10 minutes in, so it's about half an hour, so that's all good. Yeah, please do get involved with these videos. I'm still loving them. Like I say, I'm recording this on a Thursday, ready to upload, or hopefully it'll render tonight. Let's see how it goes today with my poor old 10-year-old Mac. Yes, so please do get involved. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all the usual stuff. Leave me a comment below this video and I will answer your question this time next week. See you then. Cheers.